Hi everyone, I'm International Master Jeff Lawton. I'm going to look at a game from the second Cairns Cup, just recently completed in St. Louis in the USA. This was a second round game, which was a really entertaining game. It's between Mariya Muzychuk, had the white pieces against Humpy Koneru. So you've got the former women's world champion with white against the current women's world rapid play champion. Mariya opened e4. Humpy played e5, knight f3, knight f6, the Petrov defense, d4. Steinitz's preferred continuation, d4. Knight takes e4, bishop to d3, d5, knight takes e5, and now knight to d7, challenging the knight, and now this is a rather unusual move, knight c3. Deciding to try and eliminate this straight away. Knight c3, b takes c3, and now bishop d6, sort of not leaving the strong white knight in any piece on e5. Castles for black, and now rook e1, sort of reinforcing the knight on this square. So Humpy eliminated the knight, bishop takes e5, d5, and now knight c5 to straight away sort of try and force white's bishop back to away from this this strong diagonal. Mariya wasn't worried about giving up the bishop pair here, and she just carried on with rook b1. Knight takes d3, c takes d3, b6, sort of freeing the bishop from the protection of the b7 pawn. So we've got an interesting position straight away, just sort of coming out of the opening. We've got opposite coloured bishops, dark squares against the white squares. So these bishops tend to be, well, they're unopposed. So it gives attacking chances. In the middle game, it tends to give attacking chances, whereas in games, we tend to believe it has a much greater tendency towards a draw. But if in the middle game you can attack and grab the initiative, then the bishops actually sort of can often enhance your chances of victory. So, and Mariya started with the interesting move rook b4, intending to sort of swing the rook along here, sort of lifting it into the game along the fourth rank. Bishop f5, queen f3, straight away attacking the bishop. And c5, putting the question to the rook, where does it want to go? And Muzychuk played rook to f4, which already gives the game an interesting looking appeal to it, because of the sort of the fact that white is doubled along the f file in front of. Sorry about that. It doubled on the f file in front of its own pawn. So now bishop g6, and now h4, sort of carrying on this theme of not leaving the bishop in peace. So this threatens h5 straight away to trap the bishop. So the choices are either to really sort of go here or here. Humpy chose h5, which is probably the best way to defend. And then Mariya carried on straight away with g4. So if black sort of does this, then then it gives white could just play here intending h5, or even it's possible to take with the rook and then intend to double like this, because black has no time to do this due to check, king takes, and then queen h5. And now there's a threat just to play, if you don't do anything about it, there's simply check here, and now, well, maybe king h2 to allow the rook to come here with sort of deadly consequences to the black king. So black would have to try rook h8 in this position, and then queen g4, king f8, and then bishop to g5, sort of in Morphy fashion. White's just developing with tempo all the time, attacking the queen, And after this, white would continue with a move like this, and the threats are too strong. For example, rook g8, queen h5 sort of threatens mate immediately. And if black takes, then there's another rook lift, this time this rook onto the third rank. And now the black king is unable to escape because the bishops can't escape to the queen's side, I mean, because the bishop and the queen are covering the squares. So rook here would be a winning threat, followed by well, either rook f7 mate or queen h6 mate. And if black was to play this, it doesn't really change much because rook here is still coming, and it's hopeless for black. So instead of hg4, Humpy played the strongest move, as it turns out, queen h4, and now queen g2. Sort of innocent looking retreat, somehow not the move you would sort of expect necessarily. So we'll just see if you can maybe pause the video and see the deadly threat behind this quiet looking move. Just see if you can find it. Excuse me a minute. All right, so I hope you found that. The intention is to trap the black queen, not with sort of, you sort of half expect white's going to do this, opening up the position instead, but actually the immediate threat is if black just does here, say, then g5 uncovers a discovered attack on the queen, and at the same time the pawn has blocked the queen's escape route. So that was the threat, and well done if you managed to find that. So black has a choice of either taking, which isn't what she wants to do, because then white gets what she wants. She gets the open G line, and also you can sort of, after this, you could follow up with something like queen here, and then king g2, and also use the h file. That's not recommended for black. So instead of that, she would have to decide where to put the queen in order to stop this. So either queen here, which looks very awkward, or to come back to, probably e7. Makes more sense than d8. It turns out the best move is queen g5, but this is very hard to see. And according to the engine, the best that white has is then just to repeat. And we'll play the rook back to a4, and then the queen itself just oscillates back to the h4 square. And now this doesn't trap the queen, as obviously this is on pre now. So white would probably have nothing better than to play something like this. And then black goes back, as the engines give it as 0-0-0, which never seems very helpful, but they don't see a continuation for white. So after queen e7 is the move played in the game, and now white, although white sacrificed a pawn, gh5, bishop h5, she's now got the h file to attack along, and this is very, very dangerous for black. So rook e3 was played, another rook lift. Rook e8, and now queen h2 attacking the bishop, and now g6. You can't play here because, what I sort of mentioned, this is very strong along the g file, the h file, sorry, and there's an immediate threat of checkmate. And if black tries to create an escape square, I'm sure you can see that e6 cuts that off, and then this is going to be checkmate anyway, because even king here doesn't help, because the queen is blocking escape hatch on e7. If instead black tried this line, then king h1 and then f5 again to attempt to escape to f7, but then it's the same thing with e6, cutting off the escape. Alright, the checkers meant that black can run to here, but it doesn't help, because after king f8, check, and now sort of a nice zigzag with the queen, queen c7, king f6, queen back to e5. And this time, instead of checking on c7, we can go this way. And now bishop into pose is useless, and after king here, that's checkmate. So instead of this, Humpy played g6, and now it's met with an astonishing reply by Mariya, which was rook f5. So Humpy played here, which was the strongest reply, but we need to look at this move. I'll just go down the main line because there's many ways that black can try and defend, but none of them quite work. And after f4, queen g4 is the best move as it turns out. But if you go here, intending mate, then oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, then it runs into queen takes e5, which guards h8, and if check, then king f8, and there's no diagonal open for the bishop now, and black manages to survive this. So the correct continuation would be queen g4, king f8, queen takes f4, and now there's a threat of queen h6 and rook g3 mate. So I don't know how much of this Mariya saw, because she was very short of time. I think she was down to less than 5 minutes for 20 moves or so. But after this, white can play here, cutting off the escape route. And if, say, then rook d8 as an example to try and run away this way, then white can play rook f3, king e8, and now rook f6. And I'll just do one of the lines because there's a few too many to show in a quick video, really. But if black was to play, say, queen e5, then white can play check, king here, and now rook f7, sort of, which uncovers an attack on the queen. And if king d6 to protect the queen, then check, forces this, and then check, forces that, and now the queen drops off. So that wouldn't work. So like I said, a very sort of dangerous looking attack after gf5. It sort of wins for white, according to the engines. So the game went bishop g4, couldn't take the rook, rook f4, bishop back to h5, and now instead of repeating with here, Mariya found the best move, which it's not easy to see at all, is e6. And now Humpy played this, which is the best try. If she'd played a move like f6, then rook g3 with the deadly threat of queen h5 due to the pin on the g-pawn. And then if black comes out of the pin with this move, then it's back to rook f5 yet again. And we can't take this because of mate in 1. And otherwise, there's simply no way to prevent rook h5 mating. So black would have to try queen here, and then again, rather than take on f6 straight away, we can play rook f5, intending this, so the king can't stay here or here. Sorry, can't stay on the g file. And after king h8, now rook f6 is even stronger. And after rook f5, I just sort of give an example. White's not even a pawn down, but the attack just continues. The queen is very, very badly placed on h7, and then white can sort of exploit that by switching the attack now to the d5 pawn, which is not protected. And if black was to protect this, then this move would be very strong, this line. Now intending rook here, which can't be stopped. And after here, takes, king h8, queen f6, king h7, and now e7, threatening mate. Although black can, and also this pawn is now very dangerous. The queen is cut off. And after rook here, bishop here, which nicely blocks the check and threatens mate itself. Black would have nothing better than takes, and now this is sort of completely winning. There's no way to prevent white from getting a new queen. So f6 sort of leads to a tricky position as well. But Humpy played the better move, fe6, and now rook g3. Again, there's the pin on the g line. So black either has to play. You can't go king h8 because of rook g6, and then the bishop's falling. And if so, king h7 was played, but there is an alternative. Sorry, was what I meant to say was queen h7. But it's not really a sort of a line that a human would want to play, because it's sort of intuitively clear that this is just not a very good square to leave your queen on. The bishop itself is already on a poor square, and now this puts the queen on a bad square. But even so, white has to continue, and then maybe rook here. Again, the threat to the bishop, and after king f7, rook to g5, just sort of gradually building up now. So white's given up 2 pawns, but actually it's a really sort of dangerous looking attack, and this is where the bishops of opposite colour come into their own when you're attacking. That 2 pawns down doesn't mean much when you look at the state of the opponent's king, and especially these 2 pieces are very poorly placed. But after, say, rook e7, white could continue queen to d6, rook h8, rook back to g3, and then say rook here. Now the bishop can force the rook away before regrouping to f4 and coming to e5. It's just an example line. Black tries to get the queen into the game. Now we can see here how white just can't easily drive away white's pieces. For example, queen here. It's a rather odd move that the engine gives, but the idea is that after d4, white plays queen c6, and after rook e7. There's a sort of a wonderful tactic with queen f3, a really nice move, and now if you don't take the bait with bishop takes queen, then you're sort of dropping a piece straight away. And if you do take, then rook f3, king there's forced, and now rook h6, and wins a piece and wins the game. So just shows you, even though black's 2 pawns up, the opposite bishops don't help at all in the sort of middle game here. So Humpy played king h7 instead. And again, this is not easy short of time. This is not at all easy to find white's moves, and yet, really impressively, Mariya found them. She's obviously got a really good feel for attack to play this, whether you're short of time or not. So rook h4, queen f7, and now queen f7 in order to stop rook h5, by the way, and now rook g5, and the threat is to crash through on h5. So rook g8 sort of stalls it, because now if this would be a mistake because of gh5, and the rook's unfortunately pinned along the g file. So Mariya played king f1, which is it's a fantastic move, and when I was watching the game live, it just made a really good impression that in the middle of an attack where you would imagine that every tempo mattered, and yet she finds that she manages to find the best move. And now it renews the threat of rook h5. So there's nothing for black to do actually, because she played the best move. Rook to queen to f3. Sorry. And now this rook took on h5, gh5, and now the only way to win was queen c7, which Mariya found, and now there's no way to interpose the check. The queen can't come here, it's on pre. The rook can't come here because of mate. So the king either comes to one of these 2 squares, and king h6 just walks straight away into checkmate in 2. Now the queen must interpose, and then we take it with the bishop with mate. and if this occurred in the game. And again, sort of lovely sort of attacking motion with the queen backwards and forwards in this game. Again, the only move which had to be calculated. King here, rook takes h5, king g6, and now she finished the game off with queen g5, king f7, rook h7, and here Humpy Koneru resigned the game because, well, basically it's just mate next move, king f8, and then queen here. So it was a really wonderful attacking game by Mariya. Although I've shown it as my favourite game from the Cairns Cup, and other people have mentioned it as their favourite game, but it seems a bit unfair on Humpy somehow, because she went on to have shown, a loss of hers rather, because she went on to win the tournament. She ended up on 6 out of 9. It was a fantastic result for her, because she was away from chess for 2 years after the birth of her daughter in 2016, and then she returned about a year or so ago, I think. Played at the Olympiad, and but she's now doing really well. She's recently become Women's World Rapid Champion. She's done well in the Grand Prix events in the last year, and also now she's won this invitation tournament, which I've read it said that it's the strongest, perhaps the strongest women's tournament that's ever been held. If you compare it to last year, certainly far more of the top players have entered the Cairns Cup this year than as it turns out there were last year. And in the last round, so she took a last round draw against Harika to reach 6 points, and she was pursued by Alexandra Kostyniuk, who was trying to win in order to force a playoff, but she herself was playing against Yu Wen-yun, who played the Berlin against her, which is a game I've covered in another video. So if you want to know more about that, you can watch that video. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you do enjoy the videos I'm making, somehow let me know, or something, or comment, or even better, subscribe, or just give the video a like, please. That would be wonderful. Thanks for watching. Bye now.